so let's proceed to the personalities behind correctional institutions. So starting off with Cesar Beccaria, 1738 to 1794. So Cesar Beccaria was a criminologist and economist. In the early 1760s, Beccaria helped form a society called the Academy of Fists, dedicated to economic, political, and administrative reform. So in 1764, he published his famous and influential criminology essay on the crimes and punishments. So in 1738, he started a career in economics, which lasted until his death. Cesar Beccaria was one of the greatest minds of the Age of Enlightenment in the 18th century. His writings on criminology and economics were well ahead of time. So first was the Cesar Beccaria. He is also considered the one of the author, or he helped a society through his he called it the Academy of Fist. So he also have written a book, or the author of the book on crimes and punishment. So Beccaria was born on March 15, 1738. He is an Italian. He was born in Milan, Italy. His father was an aristocrat born on Austrian Habsburg Empire but earned only a modest income. Beccaria received his primary education at Jesuit School in Parma, Italy. He would later describe his early education as fanatical and oppressive of the development of human feelings. So despite of his frustration at school, Beccaria was an excellent math student. Following his education at the Jesuit school, Beccaria attended the University of Pavia, where he received a law degree in 1758. So here Beccaria proposes he is against the death penalty, then no torture. On 1760, Beccaria extended his family by proposing to Teresa Blasco. Teresa was just 16 years old that time, and her father strongly objected to the engagement. So a year later, the couple eloped. In 1762, they welcomed a baby girl, the first of the couple's three children. So, which means that Beccaria married a very young lady, in which the father of the lady, or the father of Teresa Blasco, objected to their engagement. But then by 1762, they had a baby girl, the first of the couple's three children. So the first successive children were all males. So also among those people that Beccaria held particularly dear were his friends Pietro and Alessandro Verri. So they are the authors of they are the company of Cesar Beccaria on the Academy of Fists. In collaboration with the Verri brothers, Beccaria formed an intellectual literary society called the Academy of Fists. This is what I have said. In the line with the principles of the Enlightenment, the society was dedicated to waging relentless war against economic disorder, bureaucratic tyranny, religious narrow-mindedness, and intellectual pedantry. So this is the main focus of the Academy of Fists. So its main goal was to promote economical, political, and administrative reform. So according to Cesar Beccaria, the greatest happiness of the greatest number is the foundation of morals and legislation. So next, let's proceed to Cesar Lombroso. So he is an Italian whose views now largely discredited, brought about a shift in criminology from a legalistic preoccupation with crime to a scientific study of criminals. So the idea of Cesar Lombroso from now was already discredited. So Lombroso studied at the University of Padua, Vienna, and Paris, and from 1862 to 1876 he was a professor of psychiatry at the University of Pavia. University of Pavia is the school where Cesar Vicaria also graduated law. In 1871, he became director of the mental asylum of Pesaro, and in 1876, he became professor of the forensic medicine and hygiene at the University of Turin, where he subsequently held appointments as professor of psychiatry and then of criminal anthropology. So, Beccaria was a professor of different universities handling different subjects such as forensic medicine, and he also became a professor of psychiatry. So, Lombroso tried to discern a possible relationship between criminal psychopathology and physical or constitutional defects. His chief contention was the existence of hereditary or atavistic class of criminals who are in effect biological throwbacks to more primitive stage of human evolution. So, this is, according to Lombroso, he believed that a human person is criminal by just basing on his physical appearances. So, Lombroso contended that such criminals exhibit a higher percentage of physical and mental anomalies than non-criminals. And thus, this criminal behaviors is also hereditary. So here are the pictures of human evolution in which it shows the criminality of a person, and thus the physical features of a person is also related to its criminal behavior. So Lombroso writes, at the sight of the skull, I seem to see all of a sudden lighted up as vast plain under a flaming sky. The problem of the nature of the criminal, an atavistic being who reproduces in his person the ferocious instincts of primitive humanity and inferior criminals. So this is quoted by Cesar Lombroso, in which he is only basing the physical features, especially he is an anthropologist, so he knows the different skulls of human being, and according to him, this would also relate to the criminality of a person. Lombroso concluded from this evidence that some were born with the prosperity to offend and were also savage throwbacks to early man. So since he studied anthropology, he believed that those skulls can also be related to the criminal behavior or to the criminal acts of a man while he is being alive. So he used those skulls as his evidence to prove his point. Thus were explained anatomically with the enormous jaws, high cheekbones, prominent superciliary arches, solitary lines in the palms, extreme size of the orbits, handle shape or zizal ears found in the criminals, savages, and apes, insensibility to pain, extremely acute sight, tattooing, excessive idleness, love of orgies, and the irresistible craving for evil of its own sake. So these are his claims in proving or identifying if a person is a criminal. The desire not only to extinguish life in the victim but to mutilate corpse, tear its flesh, and drink its blood. So this is according to Cesar Lombroso in his identification or classification about a criminal. So here are some of the pictures that shows Cesar Lombroso's claim of dark origins of criminology. So according to him, the ignorant man always adores what he cannot understand. This is the conclusion of Cesar Lombroso, and this is according to him because this is what he have found out and this is what he believed. So next is William the Conqueror. William was the elder of the two children of Robert I of Normandy and his concubine Herleva, also called the Arlette, the daughter of Tanner or the undertaker from the town of Falaise. Sometimes after William's birth, Herleva was married to Herluin, Viscount of Contiville, by whom she bore two sons, including Odo, the future Bishop of Bayeux, and at least one daughter. So by 1035, Robert died while returning from a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, and William, his only son, whom he had nominated as her heir because his departure was accepted as Duke of Norman, magnates by its own overlord, the King Henry I of France. So here are some of the pictures of William the Conqueror together with its statue. She is the ruler of Normandy. So here is the followed by the ancestral um, family tree of this. Next is Enrico Ferri. He is the Italian criminologist, and he is the also studied this crime began with Cesar Lombroso, emphasizing social and economic factors. So, Enrico Ferri argued against penal systems that stress only punitive actions, recommending crime prevention instead. So, according to Enrico Ferri, or his claim was to give punitive punishments in order to recommend crime prevention. That is the positive school of criminology that is owned by Enrico Ferri. So under the positivist school of criminology are Cesar Lombroso, Enrico Ferri, and Rafael Garofalo. So the positivist school of thought, so the problems with positivist assumptions is that they account for too much crime and do not explain exceptions well. So here are the profile of Negro-European and Orang-Utan. So this is their claim about identifying a criminal, and the anthropological evolution of criminology is also here. And lastly is Clifford Shaw, the former Chicago parole officer and probation officer of Cook County in juvenile court. He became the head of IJR's Department of Sociology. In this capacity, he studied, treated, and supervised problem children and parolees and oversaw delinquency and crime research. Clifford Shaw personally began collecting life histories probably as early as 1921, and collecting continued with the IJR at least into the early 1940s. So this is Clifford Shaw. So he also proposed the social disorganization theory with a background race, ethnicity, born criminals. Clifford Shaw and Henry Mackay of 1942, a sharp rebuke to racist stereotypes. So here is the mapping of about social disorganization made by Clifford Shaw. So this highlights the variations in crime rates among neighborhoods. So here is also a table of modern disorganization theory. It includes ecological factors, which includes the family disruption, the poverty rates, population turnover, then collective efficacy results to social closeness or the kinship networks, and willingness to trust neighbors, and informal social control, then it will result to neighborhood crime rates. So that would be all for my report in this module 2. Thank you everyone for watching and for listening. Bye. God bless us all.